Hi there, folks. My name is Darren Sutton on behalf of Perfect Game and really more than anything, athletes. I mean, all of you athletes that we go to work for every day, that we care about, that we pull for, that we watch evolve, whether you play until you're 14 or you play until you're 44. This is our favorite time to talk about athletes. And in this case, I come at you with a pretty different lens, not just a host. I like hosting because it helps to pay my bills, certainly, but I come at you as a former minor league pitcher. I come at you as a son of a Hall of Fame pitcher who made 700 starts in the major leagues and who never spent a day on the disabled list in his entire 23-year major league career because of an arm injury. And so we're going to bring in throughout this conversation those that may be able to guide us and help us understand a little bit more on how to care for your arm. If you're a pitcher, even if you're a position player, how to care for your arm. But for the sake of this discussion, how to care for your arm if you're a pitcher. Jered Goodwin's our national scouting director, our meaning Perfect Game's national scouting director, but a successful scout, a successful travel ball coach, a successful high school coach at the very highest of levels. He brings that wisdom to the table. Todd Coffey is part of Perfect Game's leadership on the scouting side as well. This is a guy who was signed out of high school. This is a guy who pitched for a long time in the major leagues at a wildly successful level. A guy who did experience as a young man Tommy John surgery, so he can speak to what he went through, how he evolved from it. But I wanted to start with you two because ultimately it's about the player, it's about their families, their parents, their coaches, and just providing as much information as we can for them as they come play in PG events or play for their high school team, wherever they play. We want to kind of be as a resource, right?
Yeah, there's no question. And I think that's, part of the people that work within Perfect Game and what, this new age of kids, these young kids that are coming through probably don't understand is how many people within our company were once on the other side, came up through the travel ball ranks with Perfect Game, and other organizations coming through those high school ranks. We have a ton of people in our company that went through that same route that these 13, 14, 15-year-olds are going through now. And I think there's a lot of value in conversations like this about how things have gone, how things have changed, even in the last 5 years. Huge impactful changes that this age of prospects don't understand. They're only used to the current rules and things that are happening now and don't even understand the 26, 27 years of evolution within our company as well as travel ball in general.
Started in 1998 for you, Todd, coming out of high school at 17 years old. You were a pro at 17 years old. From that day then until we sit here now, I can't imagine the books you probably could fill with what you've learned about arm care. But when do you feel like you really clicked the most, as far as your mind grew the most, as far as caring for your arm? At what age was that, and what were some of the key things you learned?
I think for me, when I actually got injured and had my first Tommy John, I really started understanding what arm care really meant. And it was something that's individualized for each person. And I think for me, looking at exactly what my arm is capable of, when I need to throw, how I need to throw, when I need to back off, and really listen to what it is saying. And I think a lot of people don't understand every arm is not the same. If there was a secret sauce to figuring out arm care, nobody would have an injury. And that's the biggest thing people got to realize is every arm is individualized. Every person is different. Every body mechanics are different. Not everyone has the same capacity to throw every day, same capacity to throw. Everybody has to find an individual program. And that was for me when I really started clicking for me is when I was coming back from Tommy John, exactly what my arm could do. And I wish I would have known exactly those details earlier, and I probably wouldn't have had Tommy John.
It's intriguing, Jered, for you and the concept of Perfect Game. I'm speaking now specifically of Perfect Game events. Perfect Game being a pitch smart, which is a guideline of arm care, pitches to be thrown, days that are get tied in. We'll go into detail. We'll put a graphic on the screen, bit of an eye chart to follow, but it's insightful. It's interesting. Perfect Game is select compliance. So they are, compliant with the concept of taking care of the arm, the concept of pitch smart. For you as a leader, as someone who leads on the scouting side, what does that entail to you? I mean, how many people, what is the buy-in that has to be not just your staff, your scorers that are helping to count pitches on behalf of your company. But what does the buy-in have to be? Does it include travel teams? Does it include families? How much do you disseminate perfect game stance on this to those that are a part of events?
Oh, I think it's for sure, top to bottom. Playing in the late 90s, like Todd did, our summer schedule was 60 games just at my high school. We were playing so much baseball. I was starting twice a week in summer ball. It just was what it was when it got to my senior year, and that included, high school events and travel events, which I didn't play in any perfect game events there. It was other organizations, and there was nothing tracking at all. Even when I went to high school, I went to high school in Florida. The FHSAA didn't have any rules, and it led to playing in perfect game events. And then it was on the coach, it was on the parent, it was people like that had to govern it. And I was telling the story earlier today. I lost in the finals of the WWBA 3 separate times because I got to the finals, whether the semifinals or the finals, and was throwing position players for me, kids that pitched in high school, but didn't necessarily throw a ton of valuable innings in a elite travel ball setting. And I ended up taking losses. And my first WWBA championship was 2016, which was the first time that we adopted Pitch Smart. And at that point, it was kind of go on, check the other team's numbers, check your numbers, see who's good. There wasn't necessarily a, Diamond Cast or anything else checking those numbers. So then coming on to Perfect Game, it's constant little tweaks to tech, to data, to everything that we're going out and trying to make it easier for our scorekeepers, for coaches, for parents to track pitches, understand a red and a green light, good to go, not good to go. Putting it between events. If you make it to a semifinals or a finals on a Monday and you are starting an event, Wednesday or Thursday of the next week, who can still throw from, throwing Monday to not being able to throw till that next weekend? When 5 years ago, nobody was doing that. We were kind of the pioneers there. There's a couple people, a couple other organizations that have adopted Pitch Smart, rightfully. But we're constantly trying to adapt and make our tech better and do things like that. And this is, I don't think, people understand how many times, Todd and I have talked, or more leaders and more scouts in our organization about things that we can improve upon that really just started, 5 years ago, because I think everybody wants the same thing to happen. We want to be a step in all these players' careers. We want to put them on, a podium and get them in front of the eyes of college recruiters and pro scouts. And we want to make sure that they're doing it in a safe and responsible manner. So what we're trying to do internally, what other people outside of our organization are trying to do and help us, all of the guidance that we receive, we are trying to daily infuse that with all of our tournaments that go on nationwide.
Yeah, a big part of it, and I've learned as an outsider on this, not having hands on any of the tech or of events, and I'm glad. It's amazing what you guys do, but Diamond Cast, the official scoring app, really tied to that, making aware, and even I think for me is a key, and before I get to you, Todd, and just briefly, Jered, I think something that's interesting when you do get busy in the summer, if you're playing, and it's by player ID, right? If you're going from one team to another, if you're playing for the Canes, then the Chi-Town Cream, and you're playing on a Saturday, then on a Tuesday at another event, you in fact, because of the technology, that counting goes on no matter where you're at and what team. And that to me is kind of a big deal. That helps the athlete help themselves a little bit, right? And maybe the coach help themselves a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if in this day and age, we have so many kids that play for different teams. They also play different age groups. We have a lot of young kids that are playing up, and then we have some guys that are older, younger for their classes that play down. And what they've done over the last 5 years with Diamond Cast is use that player ID to monitor and track pitches, so it takes some of the pressure off the coach that, it's so easy for a competitive kid to say, no, I didn't throw much the other day. It was more of a bullpen setting, just in game. Well, it's easy to go back, one, to that event, that game within the event, or two, looking at the new DK to seeing if it's a green or a red there that they're able to throw. So it takes some pressure off everybody. And it's only going to get better as our IT and tech continues to get better, as well as our scorekeepers behind home plate.
I don't want you to strictly just be my advice guy, Todd, but because of your experience, I mean, I think people are going to be dying to know what advice you have when we're talking about this subject. And I want to start in this case with coaches. You had them. You probably, if you chose to, could be doing it in the big leagues right now and be a leader of young athletes, be a coach. You're going more the development and scouting route. That being said, with this in mind and caring for your pitchers, whether it's right now, early high school season, whether it's in July, where it's possibly a chance to go play at a big event, what advice as it pertains to arm care do you have for coaches?
For coaches and the players and everyone, is they have to realize their arm can't just be 100% on the weekends or the games that they pitch. They have to build it up. And a lot of people don't realize that you need to be max effort sometime during that week or sometime during your arm care program so your arm is used to throwing hard. You can't just expect to throw hard one day and not put your arm at a more percentage chance of getting hurt. And I think the biggest thing is you've got to have max effort days with your rest days so your arm is used to it. I mean, it's something that you have to build upon.
It's interesting, and when I look back at your journey and what you accomplished, you had to be getting after it as a young player. You had to have goals and dreams. So on the advice moniker, one more time, speak specifically to players, please. Not moms or dads, not the coaches. Speak specifically to players and just deepen what you just said. Give them maybe even a little bit more advice about those that they should trust and listen to. The way that they maybe, I don't know, you'll tell me, maybe listen to themselves in their own bodies. But, you know, if I cornered you in a Starbucks and I was 17 and pretty good, and I knew what you accomplished, and I said, Mr. Coffey, what advice do you have for me? Take what you just said even deeper, only to the players.
Well, first you're going to be drinking a lot of Starbucks and a lot of espressos because I'm going to talk your ear off. The biggest thing is you have to listen to your arm. The sooner you can identify what is soreness, what is pain, what is injury, is really when you can start building upon arm care. Is when you can kind of, hey, I threw a 30-pitch bullpen today, or I threw a 30-pitch in the game today. This is what my arm felt like. Really pay attention once you're done. What are you feeling? Not just in your arm, but in your legs and your back and your body. Because we've seen over the time that arm injuries really come from weak core, weak legs, something else is weak in that kinetic chain that causes that arm problem. So you have to not just your arm, but it's a total body care. And you really have to listen to what it's telling you. You really have to build upon it each time you go out. And I'm a real believer in, if you don't throw, you're going to lose it. And I used to throw a lot, but I listened to my arm. There were many times where I would throw 2 days in a row in the big leagues. And I'm like, I don't need to play catch today, so I didn't play catch. I don't think I would have been able to throw 81 games in a year if I didn't listen to my arm. And I think that's the biggest thing these players have to do is just, hey, find out what works for you and then build upon it. Listen to other people. Say, hey, what are you doing where your arm doesn't get sore? Or what am I doing? Or what are you doing that, hey, you can throw more and more? Find out, try it, and if it doesn't work for you, move on to something else that works for you. And I think the sooner you can individualize your arm care program for yourself, the more you're going to not just be safer, but you're also going to max out your performance.
It makes a lot of sense. I want to share with our viewers, because I'm learning along. These two guys know a lot, and our guests know a lot. Select compliance for PitchSmart reads the following. Follow PitchSmart guidelines pertaining to pitch counts and rest periods. Recommend that players, parents, and coaches adhere to all PitchSmart guidelines. General PitchSmart information is hosted and are linked from the organizational website. That's, in this case, is Perfect Game. Developing a plan and will continue to show progress towards the adoption of all standards of full PitchSmart compliance in coming years. How, Jered, do you as a scout, you and your leadership and PG as a group, if you're going to talk maybe about the future and evolution in this area of arm care, what do you see are the next few things here in 2023? Because if we're settled, if Perfect Game's settled, that's not good, and they're not at all. So what's next in growing this concept of being better and helping give players at least the vision on how to care for their arms?
Yeah, I think a lot of it just goes back with constant awareness between what's going on, the tournaments that are being played, the amount of kids that now have personal trainers. They're throwing harder, they're running faster, they're really competing at a higher level every single year, and having that continuity of understanding between Perfect Game, between travel coaches, between parents, and educating those players on a constant basis. A lot of the players can actually read off what the pitch limits are, the days off in between. A lot of the players are actually the ones that know what the rules are for their certain age groups because they want to go and win championships. And the more awareness and the more communication that we can have between all of those different segments of responsibility, because everybody has the responsibility, including us, and we know that. Some of it comes down to continuing to improve our data platforms, between what happens behind the scenes and what's actually posted. Any type of mishap that goes on there can directly lead into, a player being able to throw again, whether it was somebody that was entered that was wrong, whether it was somebody that was changed on the backside because, an inning was actually taking place. All of those things happen, and we understand that. But the communication between all of the people involved, I think, is the biggest thing to raise the awareness and get these kids to understanding their full schedule, where they can throw, when they're going to be, as Todd said, built up to go into, a more, strenuous pitch count, whether that was, working up from 20 pitches at the beginning to, 65 pitches later, being able to throw, 30 pitches twice on a weekend because they throw on a Friday and a Sunday, or Friday and a Monday. But being able to have the communication between everyone involved, I think only helps the athlete. Us understanding that we're just a step in everybody's career, and that's what we should be. We just want to be a step that, can get you in front of the people that can actually recruit you, the people that can give you, can actually draft you and pay you one day, and hopefully, keep the dreams alive of what Todd was able to experience. But if the communication and the awareness isn't there, and we don't take steps yearly to make sure that we infuse, just the right feeling and the right message into everybody involved, it's not going to happen overnight. But I do think there's strides being made really every single month of every single year of how we can help these young athletes achieve whatever dream it is they have.
Yeah, and it's to me, from what you guys have shared with me, it's about, making sure the scorekeepers are given the best of training. They're kept up to date on the importance of the pitch count, having the ability to go back in and change, a page if in fact there's, a pitch or two that's missed or something with a box score. That's all happening with the technology. Jered, for you, I want to lean on you a little bit, and I have maybe a more lighter one for Todd. But I want to lean on you just a little bit and have you give advice for parents, because as I sit here and try to stay as objective as I can, as a parent, mine are all adults now, but as a parent, when they were younger, ultimately it was my responsibility for my minor child, whether they were playing soccer, gymnastics, all girls, those sports, whether they went on a road trip, whether they tried a tougher apparatus, ultimately it came down to their mom and I having a discussion about it. A lot of this has to fall on the responsibility, almost all of it really, on mom, dad, if it's stepmom, stepdad, if it's grandparents helping. I know there are many kinds of homes, but whoever is leading that young athlete, there's a lot of responsibility there that I think the parents need to take hold of this as well.
Yeah, so I have a 15-year-old that played in his first Perfect Game event this fall. And I think I am in a different situation given my job and my background, kind of growing up within the Perfect Game ranks as a coach, and then 1099, and then finally full time. I would say one of the things that I would tell all parents: as much time as you spend on the baseball field, you need to be spending in the weight room and taking care of your body. It's not just in the weight room always. Sometimes it is the right amount of sleep, the stretching, everything that comes with it. This is me giving advice as a parent. kind of know the showcase seasons for these young athletes of where they're going to play a ton, whether it be high school, whether it be the fall, or whether it be at the summer circuit. How am I doing? What am I doing as a parent in between to make sure that I monitor the bodies? Because as the athlete grows, they have to get stronger, and this could be for a third baseman. Let's just call this what it is. That's a lot of throws across the infield when we're really looking at the awareness of the body and what the arm does. And obviously we're focusing kind of on the arm awareness for pitchers and pitch counts and innings. But as a parent, the best advice that I could give is whatever you're doing with a swing coach, with a pitching coach, live reps, you need to be spending just as much time in the weight room or taking care of your body with nutrition, again, with sleep, with stretching, with rest, all of those things combined. I would give that advice to parents because it's so important to educate yourselves. Again, when we're talking about working together to raise this awareness and always get better, the parent is one that has the most conversations with each kid. And I do with my son, certainly about the do's and don'ts of what we're doing, from a safety, measure, or from hitting for more power, throwing harder. We all want it. Because I will say the one thing that is the hardest for a parent is we're probably more competitive than our kids in so many different areas. So the education of everything that's going on is just as important for us at Perfect Game as it is for each parent that plays Perfect Game events.
And again, like to me, I like being above all of it too. Like listening to you, like if you're not playing PG events, but you happen to have this shared with you and you play either other events or you're playing just rec ball, it doesn't matter. I mean, the goal, I think, for us is to provide guidance. So, Todd, long after you said goodbye to Dr. Tim Kremchek when he rebuilt your elbow and you weren't around him anymore, I'm sure that was a good time to say goodbye to him. As you got older as a pitcher, in 9, 10, and 11, you went 78, 69, and 69 appearances. Dude, you were resilient, you were effective. How good was it to feel good for stretches? How good was it to have your arm bounce back? And as you said, know yourself during those times.
It was definitely amazing to go out there every day and know that my arm was solid, ready to roll. But it really built up all with the rehab process because I learned my arm, like you said, and it was amazing to go out there. And like I said, I could throw 3 or 4 days in a row. No, hey, I don't need to throw today. I might go to the gym, work out, get a lift in, get things moving, but I don't need to throw a baseball today. There may be days where I didn't throw 4 or 5 days in a game. I was like, okay, I'm going to build in long toss. I think long toss is one thing that we kind of went away from. And one way I used to do long toss is I did it after the game. And the reason I did it after the game was I was a reliever. I didn't know if I was going to pitch in that game. So to utilize long toss, it should be max effort. If you're not doing max effort in long toss, you're not getting strength out of it because you want to build strength. So if I long toss before a game, well, I have 2 things that going to happen there. I'm going to sacrifice my long toss and it's a waste of my time, or I'm going to have my long toss build strength and take away from the game and increase my chance of getting injured. So if I knew I needed to get long toss in that day or that week, I didn't pitch or didn't warm up off the mound, 15 minutes after the game, I'd grab the bullpen catcher or a guy who wanted to long toss with me and long toss after the game. And usually it would be a rookie or a young player, and he's like, why are you long tossing after the game? Well, I'd explain to him. And then all of a sudden now we'd have 4 or 5 guys long tossing after games because now I've just long tossed correctly, I've built strength, and now I have recovery time before I possibly pitch the next day.
Amazing. Guys, I've asked all the questions I feel like from what you guys prepared me for. Jered, is there anything that you feel like I missed?
No, I think the consistent message, that everybody has is that, we want to figure this out, together and continue to get better. The strides that we've taken and the awareness that we want to create for everybody and the constant communication that we have so that we can get better and produce more accurate information and awareness to everybody is only helping each student athlete as, again, we are just a step in their entire journey.
What did I miss, Todd? Anything I missed that you wanted to share?
I think one thing that with the technology and everything getting better and us tracking every pitch, and it's something to lean back on what Jered said, these parents can now really focus on how many pitches their kids throws year round and really utilize that to build upon. And, we're working this with you guys. We're a team because the last thing we want to see is a kid get injured. What we want to see is every kid make it to the big leagues. We want to see every kid have a chance to progress and get better. So let's work together on this with the parents. If parents have a question about pitching or reason the pitching things are the way they are, hey, ask about it. Say, hey, I was looking here, my son pitched this many pitches. Ask us. We're here to help you guys.
Incredible insights from Jered and Todd, and it may be best to chat with an active player, a current player, a player that's chasing his dream, meaning the 2023 draft. Travis Sikora is out of Round Rock, Texas. He's a perfect game All-American at last year's PG All-American Classic. He touched 100 miles an hour. Travis, talking about arm care, we're having this great conversation. Thanks for spending just a moment with us. How do you, in caring for your arm, ramp up for a season like a high school season? From doing nothing, kind of quieting down in the fall, until you want to be full go for game number one. How does one do that?
So at first, I just take a couple weeks off. That was after PG All-American. I came back and took 2 weeks off, just kind of let my body reset. And then for about a month or so, I was just playing catch. That's a big thing for me, just staying athletic. Because I play shortstop when I'm not pitching. So I just like to stay athletic, and throw from different slots. And then as the off season progressed, it went long toss and added weighted balls. And then bullpen started. I think I threw about 4 or 5 bullpens, and I had my first live at bats. And after that, the plan was a few more live at bats and before my first scrimmage. But with Texas, the weather hasn't been very good here, so we had to make some adjustments. So I just did some extended bullpens, and then last Monday was my first scrimmage. So it's a long build up, but it's exciting and it's fun to kind of see things progress.
And then there's daily things, right? No matter if you're, I don't know, a professor and you want to up your reading so you can be, better with your vocabulary. No matter what you do in your life, it's about habits. I'm curious about kind of the daily routine. You talked about diet, you talked about getting rest, but I think something that I've learned in catching up with you and then reading about you a little bit is stretching has become a big habit of yours. It's part of your daily routine. So for that arm care, for that body care, kind of describe the amount of times and how you stretch throughout the day.
Oh, I was actually just thinking about this morning, because I go to bed at night and I do a lot of arm stretching, and then I go sleep, and then I wake up in the morning and then I do lower body stretching. So kind of to end the day and to start the day is stretching. And I think stretching is really important, especially being taller like me. I mean, you got to keep your body loose. So that way everything works together. So lots of stretching, legs, arms, everything, spine and all that stuff. So I take that stuff really importantly, and I do it a lot.
Have a great season. Look forward to connecting with you later on as we get closer to the draft. Your teammates are fortunate to have you, and you're fortunate to have them. Have an amazing high school season at Round Rock High School. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Darren. I really appreciate it.
Out of Texas, Travis Sikora joining us. Love reconnecting with the man who last year, on the biggest stage that at least Perfect Game provides, hit 100 miles an hour at Chase Field. And so why not have the insights of a pitcher who was a PG All-American, a pitcher who did and has to manage his arm. His name is Quinn Priester. He's one of the top pitching prospects in all of Major League Baseball, and certainly as it goes to prospects, the heart and soul of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Quinn spends time with us now. Quinn, it's interesting. I want to get right into the concept of arm care and go here. When you're getting ready as a pro for spring training and Christmas comes and goes and you ramp up with your arm in mind, how do you ramp up as it pertains to heading into a pro season?
It's a slow buildup. So it starts with 2 times a week going out and throwing to 60 feet. And it sounds silly and sometimes it even feels, a little weird because you're not really doing anything, but it's just trusting that buildup to be able to have a long season and knowing that taking your time in January and February is going to result to long-term health. And so I always start slow with plyo balls. If that's something that some people are into, start with plyo balls, then work to start playing catch, 2-3 weeks to build volume. And then, once you get to whatever volume, it's going to be different for a reliever versus a starter. You can start to touch the mound and start to work bullpens. But, it's a slow, I think it was 8 weeks before I touch the mound or something like that, 7 weeks. So it definitely can get tedious at times because you just want to get on the mound and compete. But, staying healthy is definitely one of the most, or definitely the most important thing. You can't keep getting better if you're hurt. So the more you can play, the better it is. And staying healthy is huge in that.
So flipping back the calendar a few years when you and I ran into each other, when you realized, I want to get on people's radar, I want to get on people's map, how much did you have to govern yourself and manage yourself to make sure that you did do a similar thing that you're doing now? Because there may be something that's in a week and you say, well, in a week, I'm not going to be ready for that. How much did you govern and manage yourself, talk with parents, talk with coaches, in order to make sure that you're doing what you do now? That's take care of yourself.
I think I just always had great people around me. My parents were always checking in, making sure that my arm was feeling good. It wasn't necessarily how I was playing or like, hey, how'd it go? It was more, how do you feel, how you're recovering. And, it was before we really knew a whole lot. So just having coaches and monitoring pitch counts was big, especially, when I was younger. And just really listening to your body. I think there's times where you might feel a little sore, but it doesn't necessarily, hurt or is super strenuous to keep pushing through that. And I think that's where you build some real arm strength and longevity, especially as a starter going deeper. So, I think just listening to your body and if something doesn't feel right, that's probably your body telling you that something's wrong. So just listen to your body, but there is a point, push through a little bit of discomfort if it's just, fatigue and not hurting you. So I think that was always the advice that I was given growing up, and I feel that's the advice I still use. And so I think there's a lot of value to just listening to your body.
Thank you very much, Quinn, for spending time with us, and have an amazing 2023 season. So now we've heard from scouts and a ton from pitchers and gotten their perspectives, but I think it's best to hear from someone in the travel world, someone leading as a coach, and let's do so with NorCal Baseball founder Rob Bruno. Rob, for you, help us understand how much you prioritize as a travel group arm care.
One of the things that we do, it's a little bit interesting, and Alan Jered, who's been in the forefront, Alan's one of my good friends in life for 3 decades, right? And so one of the things that we do that he suggested is that we count innings throughout the whole year. And we'll have a maximum amount of innings, and we'll base it off how many innings did that guy throw in high school. That's going to base off how many innings he's going to throw for us in the summer and also the fall. He might be playing on a scout team in the fall, right? So we can't control that, but we can control what we can. There are only so many bullets. We make sure we do that. We've got our own internal piece as far as how many pitches you're going to throw in a game, especially in the summertime. Very rarely does anybody ever go over 80. And at that point, it's usually the last game of the year. We just don't care about any kind of, again, plastic trophies. We say go 3 innings, 4 innings as hard as you can, and let's see where we are. In the fall, we do something where we'll have the guys throw 50 pitches. And we have a little game. The game is how many batters can you go through in those 50 pitches? The guys that go through the most batters in those 50 pitches wins the game.
That's incredible. Efficiency, pitch efficiency, and strike throwing, and not nibbling. I have to ask you about the concept of perfect game and pitch smart, and making sure that an arm is looked out for. They're one of the compliant bodies. Does that matter to you? I'm guessing that matters to you as someone who plays some in PG events. You play in multiple groups, but does that matter to you how PG handles it?
That's important, and you guys are really great at that. We know exactly how many we threw the day before. We know who's eligible. Our internal pitch counts are probably even stricter. Again, it just doesn't matter. It's live to play another day. What we're thrilled about more so is watching these kids in college and in pro. Last year, these are guys that played full time. Last year, we had 3 first-round guys, 3 second rounds, a third round, 11 guys total. A lot of those were pitchers. We're really proud of that. By the way, they were already great. Do we have a hand in it? Yeah, we didn't screw them up. And that's some of the biggest things that we can do.
I want to ask you too about parents, because I feel like what gets lost in this discussion is the athlete taking accountability for himself, especially as he becomes a younger man, and B, the mom and dad and the proper kind of involvement, not over involvement. What advice do you have for parents that are listening to your words right now?
We educate our parents all the time, and they're great people. There's so many misconceptions on what's important out there. And again, you know me well enough to know I'm not a rankings guy. I don't care about that stuff. What we do care about is find a great group that's going to care about you and get your priorities straight.
And so for parents, so as it pertains to pitching, it's kind of the same thing as it pertains to pitching, right? I mean, I feel like there's you look to find a travel coach or an organization like a PG and cast blame. Well, if they're not doing anything to help, they deserve the blame. But otherwise, a lot of like anything else, within the four walls of your home, the responsibility lies too.
It absolutely starts right there. We cannot dictate what that young man does every day of the week, 24 hours. If he plays on multiple teams, that's a problem. If the parents are not very close to watching all these things, that's a problem. And it starts with a lower age, starts with the 10s, 11s, and 12s, where every game is the seventh inning or the ninth inning of the seventh game of the World Series. None of this stuff matters. There's got to be a plan all the way through so we can make sure these kids stay at the next level after.
Thank you very much, Rob. Love spending time with you. And by the way, one of your old pitchers, got to call some games with him last year, the D-Train, Dontrell Willis. And so we want to thank Rob. We certainly want to thank Jered and Travis and Todd Coffey as well, and the insights of Quinn Priester, all of them coming together to help us grow just a little bit more on how to give advice and guidance to young pitchers as they take care of their arms. We wish all athletes a very successful 2023 season and summer as well. On behalf of Perfect Game TV, I know I've learned a bit. My name is Darren Sutton.